Your environment might be the silent hero or the hidden villain when it comes to building habits. Today we're going to explore how to design a habit-friendly environment, because when your surroundings work with you, not against you, building habits becomes so much easier. So let's take a look. Humans are a very visually focused species. About 70% of the body's total sensory receptors are in the eyes. So it's no wonder that sight plays such an important part in influencing our actions. Visual cues are the most powerful triggers to our behaviour. And this knowledge can be leveraged to help us make habits that stick and break habits that we don't want. But this knowledge is often used against us. For example, items at eye level in a supermarket are much more likely to be bought. This is why the expensive stuff is positioned here and the budget stuff is often on the bottom shelf. This is an example of manipulation of the habit loop that we've already looked at. If we want the cue, the trigger, to be more powerful, we need to make it more obvious. So placing a water bottle on your desk will remind you to drink more water. Having fresh fruit in a bowl on the counter encourages you to eat more fruit rather than snacking on biscuits. I wanted to get more movement done daily, so I decided to do some daily kettlebell swings. But my kettlebells were out in the shed, so it was really easy for me to forget. So now I keep one in the middle of the floor in the office. I am literally tripping over it and stubbing my toe on it constantly. But you know what I'm not doing? I'm not forgetting to get my swings in. I even have a garden set to encourage me to fling them about when I pop outside, and I've got one in the van for impromptu sessions. Yes, I am that bloke on the beach. We have so many things going on in our lives, so much distraction, so many things competing for our attention, that remembering to do something new or relying solely on willpower just isn't going to cut it. We need the cue to the new habit to be totally in our faces. And these are important things to consider for bad habits too. If the triggers for habits that we're wanting to avoid are all around us, then we're having to rely on self-control. But self-control is a short-term plan at best. To go back to the idea of neuroplasticity again, repetition creates these neural pathways in our brains, like wearing a groove in a surface. When they are new, these grooves are really shallow. So if habits are like a marble rolling along the groove, it doesn't take much to knock the marble out of the groove. And habits are like water. They will always follow the path of least resistance, the old deep grooves of the bad habits. If self-control is our only way of working, then over time, bad habits will win out. And the bad news is that the really deep grooves of long-held bad habits take a long time to go away, and sometimes they never do. Until we remove the cues to the habit, we will always be in a battle with those neurological grooves we've created with the bad habits. So we flip the technique. If we make the triggers for habits that we want more obvious, we need to make the triggers for the ones that we don't want disappear as much as possible. Removing foods that we want to cut out from the house is the obvious way to get rid of the trigger. If you don't have it, you can't eat it. Cutting off the plug of your computer will definitely reduce how much you watch YouTube. Smashing your phone with a hammer is a sure way to minimise how much social media you consume, but none of this is practical. If you just signed up to be a monk in a monastery, then great. But if you live with other people, then they may not be happy with you throwing out their favourite foods. Computers are useful tools as well as leisure devices, and phones are pretty handy too at times. So what can we do other than become a cave-dwelling mountain hermit? We can add friction. Trying to cut out biscuits, for example, well, pop them in a tub and put them in the garage. The amount of times I've discovered a biscuit in my mouth with no recollection at all of picking it up is unreal. When they're out on the side, it's just so easy to eat one mindlessly. But now they're in the garage, it's premeditated. The craving hits, and now I have to make the conscious decision to go and get one. This gives me a moment of pause and reflection. You know, am I actually hungry? Am I just bored? Can I be bothered to go out to the garage when I've got a bowl of perfectly good fruit here right in front of me? So much of what we do is automation. We don't think about it. The habit is so ingrained that our bodies start the process before our mind even becomes aware of it. Creating some friction forces us into mindfulness, and mindfulness is the key to being in control. If I'm writing on my computer, I'll disconnect from the internet. This way I can't take a sneaky look at all of your comments on Facebook, which ultimately descends into me watching videos of gibbons freaking out about hedgehogs. I put all of my social media icons in a single file on my phone, and this puts an extra step in the way of accessing them. I then put that file 5 screens away from my home screen, so I have to continually swipe to find it, and this is really annoying. And being annoyed doesn't feel good, so I'm less bothered to do it. And because automation is the enemy of breaking bad habits, I regularly reorganize how the icons appear on my phone so that my thumb doesn't automatically click on Instagram without me even realizing it. And friction can also be reduced to help building habits that we do want. Many people are trying to build morning habits, and here we can take a good lesson from our Celtic ancestors. To the Celts, the new day started when the sun went down. In other words, this morning started last night. Laying out your gym clothes the night before reduces the friction and the excuses of running around first thing in the morning in the dark trying to get ready. It makes it far too easy to skip, but the smug satisfaction you get by slipping out of bed and straight into clean gym kit is great, and there are far fewer reasons not to do it. Spending 15 minutes on a Sunday slicing up a load of veggies makes including them in your lunch and dinner positively effortless for the rest of the week. Rather than spending hours trawling through the internet for that perfect workout plan, only to be crippled by choice and ending up with the paralysis of analysis, hire a coach and let them do the work for you. Look, discipline is important. Being disciplined negates the need for motivation. But discipline is like a muscle, it needs building up a little at a time. And this is why we start small and we slowly build. But let's use every tool we have available to us. Let's leverage the environment around us. A simple task for you: take a step back and audit your environment. Ask yourself, does this space make my good habits easier or harder? Are there distractions that I can remove or positive cues that I can add? Even tiny changes like decluttering a desk or work surface can create a space that naturally encourages the habits that you want to build. To be more disciplined is far easier when we create a disciplined environment. Instead of fighting temptation all the time, spend your energy optimizing your environment.